Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Can I have the roll call, please?
Catherine Kenny?
Connie Soul.
Rick Mancini.
Kristen Cantara Olivera. Okay, general business. We have one correspondence, and that was the letter of resignation from our former chair, Anton Dias. And I want to thank him publicly for all the hard work that he put into this commission in building it up for what it is, and we wish him the best. With that said, we have a vacancy to fill the position of chair. Do we have anyone
I
that would
recommend that Kristen
like?
take the chair.
Is there anyone else that would like the position? Nope. Okay. I have a
Recommendation that
recommendation.
you take the chair.
Okay.
It'll be a short.
I'll
duration.
second,
Okay.
I'll second it.
And the second.
And so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, I will do it, I guess. Thank you.
I think.
I have no choice. Okay, next on the agenda, public input. Do we have anything from the public? No, okay. Okay, on to public hearings and determinations. So our first public hearing is for the property at 604 Rock Street. So, if you would like to introduce yourself, let us know who you are.
My name's Adam Almeida. I own 604 Rock Street. And there's a couple of maintenance items I'd like to do, but they are on the outside of the house. So.
Okay. So why don't you just give us a little rundown and, you know, I mean, we have the things, but just
Yep.
basically what it is that you're...
So maintenance of the roof, I think, well, thank you for helping me with the entranceway that was actually leaking and damaged. So that's now buttoned up. The contractor's gonna finish the other side, because you've probably noticed that one side doesn't match the other now. So that'll be done. But the whole roof is gonna need repair 5 years ago. So I wanted to get permission and instruction on what I can do to repair the shingle roof, not the flat part. The main chimney on the house is in pretty bad disrepair. You can view it from the street. It needs mainly repointing. I didn't want to change it, encase it, or anything like that. One thing I do want to add is a cap. I think it's called a cap. And that will help keep weather and animals out of there, which has pretty much destroyed it. The current siding is damaged. It's lifted out in several corners of the house. I can't afford to replace all of it right now, but I'd like to repair it. I don't want to replace anything. I don't want to change anything. I just want to, we're probably going to have to pull some of it off to make sure we have solid wood underneath to refasten to. The exterior windows, I forgot what it's called, the sill maybe, on a lot of the third levels is almost completely rotted away.
It's the bottom portion of your window.
Yeah, on the outside, the bottom portion, the valance maybe, but it's pretty much not there on some of them, and I'd like to replace that.
Is there
those.
storms on them?
There are storm windows on most of them, and I had a note there that I'd like to put storm windows in, and then notice they're pretty much there in all of them anyway. And I think we're allowed to put storm windows on.
Yes.
Did I read that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I have maintenance of paint, and I can't remember why. Oh, the trim is, the paint's peeling off, so it is white now. I don't know if we're gonna paint it. Maybe we change to the colors that Mr. Sewell recommended. The tans and the,
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I was
There
just saying
aren't
that in
any
general, but I
paints.
will tell you that the paint colors aren't
They're
controlled
not
by the historic
restricted.
district.
I read that.
So
Yeah, I
if
read
you're just,
They're
that.
not
so if
bad.
you're just-
Yeah.
so if you're just filling in and.
so that hot pink you
Repairing it.
discussed earlier.
We can do it.
You
can.
The bright green.
There was
Yeah.
a hot pink, it was that raspberry color, on Rock Street. Remember
yeah,
a while
that's
back, I
not
used to
in
call it the
the- yeah.
Pepto-Bismol house? It actually looked,
It's across the street from
it was,
the other
it
house.
was bright, but it kinda
Kinda
looked, it
diagonal.
looked nice. Now it faded, but
And
I
there's-
mean,
there's a terracotta kind of color too that I actually think is cool. But anyway, I digress.
yeah, oh, that one's,
So it would be to
yeah.
repaint the trim. It's
Mhm.
white now.
The trim is all wood trim, it's not
The trim's all wood.
vinyl?
At the corners, the vertical corners of the house are aluminum. I wouldn't touch those. It would be the wood on in the eaves and the peaks and the porch.
Okay.
And then I had a question about landscaping, where you get involved on that. Some of the walkways are kind of cracked and busted up.
Well, that's pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's.
thought I saw in there that some of the, if you're gonna actually change flower beds or put them in or something, that you might need input on
No.
that.
Yeah, so the state has different guidelines, but then they let the individual towns and cities decide how strict they want to be.
Yeah,
So when they created in Fall River, they eliminated some of the
The
extra
real
stuff.
strict,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
We're just not as strict as
We're not.
most towns and cities.
it's not downtown Newport,
Not downtown. No.
not yet anyway, I
Not
wish
yet.
it was.
Right, only
Yeah,
work out
We
well
can
for
make
us.
recommendations to you, like just to, what we think looks
Yeah.
more appropriate.
Yeah,
Even if I don't have to do it that way,
Mhm.
I'd rather have the house look more like it fits, I mean, than not, cause we all know it was sided over a long time ago. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
at one point, it really didn't stand out, but the way that street's going, it kinda stands out now.
Mhm.
it
Um,
does.
So if it's no cost difference or anything, I just assume make it fit than not.
Fit with the culture.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, that's what keeps the property value
Mhm.
up, and
Yeah.
that's why I bought there originally.
Plus, it really is a beautiful property,
Mhm.
so to put that looking historic, to restore that and
Yeah.
have it fit in the district, that would be stunning.
It would be awesome,
And it
but
really
I
would raise your
I don't
property
have
value
250 grand to
incredibly.
do it in one swoop.
Yeah.
No, and there's ways that you
I
can do
wish
it
I
in
could.
stages, but, I know like Connie had said, there's,
Not a big fan.
there's historic tax credits
Yeah,
that you can get to, to do things like that.
yeah, it helps, but I mean, it needs to make the money to take advantage of it.
She's
But,
scary.
I-
So, I mean, I don't see where you're changing anything that's currently there. You're just asking for maintenance, and the only thing about the chimney that I'd be concerned about is you like cutting it down, but as long as you're repointing it, not changing the height and that sort of
No,
thing.
don't wanna change any of that. The cap is
That
added.
would be my question. What kind of, what style cap?
I wanted to keep it simple. This is a picture of it. If you wanna pass it around, that's what I have in mind.
Okay, that's, I have no problem with that. That just makes good sense.
Mhm.
Did you just say?
Yeah, I did.
I'm amazed how many chimneys don't have that in the city.
Yeah.
Which I guess, I don't know, 100 years ago, they didn't
I
think
wanna
the
see if
houses
I
would
could-
still be used.
I don't like that cap,
houses.
Adam. You get a
I knew it. Why'd you show it to
I'm
her?
only kidding. I don't have any
Can you
voting power.
paint it pink?
And what about the shingles on the roof? I don't, I'd like to use something that looks like mimic slate. That was the idea anyway. That's what was on the entrance. Is that, everybody agree to something like that? I don't know if you wanna pass this around. That is the exact,
It's asphalt shingles.
that is the manufacturer and model of shingle. that I
That's what's
wanted to
on there
use.
right now?
That's
Or-
what's on the north side, the south side of the entrance
That you just
that I
repaired.
just put on.
Yeah.
It was I don't even think you can get 3-tab shingles anymore, but
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about when you do the whole roof, what you wanna do.
when I do the whole roof, I would like to use that, well, obviously I wanna match it.
I don't see a problem with that.
No, I can say, I mean, if you put it too close, I won't be able to see it. It does kind of look like slate, huh?
Yeah, it's-
It's the only
It's
reason I
it's
was
appropriate.
attracted to
It's
that
appropriate.
book.
Would you hold this for us so she can see it?
No, I
I can hold it back
see
here.
I don't have my reading glasses on, so like if it comes close, I can't see it all. Yeah,
Okay.
that's, pass it to them. So what's it made of? Is it,
It's asphalt shingle.
It's just asphalt, yeah.
It's nothing special, it's just the colors are not all one even color.
Yeah.
I thought it was kinda cool. So that's what I had. I can't believe that whole house was natural cedar shingles.
Yeah.
They're under there, but
Stunning.
they've got several hundred years of paint over them, and
Right.
Would they paint it?
the last color was green or black.
I don't know if it was painted. Originally, they would have painted it probably in the 30s or
Green would
20s.
have been a fashionable color.
Yeah.
But it was a real dark green if it's green,
Yeah.
and it's not green like their house.
But the shingles, it's a shingle-style house, and so they would have built it originally to not paint it. And then people
Like yours.
just became
Yeah.
vogue to.
Yeah, like mine, just a red cedar.
Yeah. That's what we did too. We put the red seed in, and we didn't ever have to paint it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we don't have to paint it ever again.
We both did not paint it.
and it looks nice.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm in agreement. I have no issue. I'm glad you saved your roof. Glad you were able to save
I
the
have pictures of what
interior.
happened while we were waiting. Does anyone want to see them?
I
So
think
it
you
was
did
your
share
house
them.
that
Is that
was
the
your
ones that you
contractor who
sent me?
called?
Might be.
You remember I told you, didn't we talk about this? It was a roof that was in really bad maybe I'm losing my mind, could be. From Beckaway?
No, I'm like, I'm trying to think.
Jay
Did
Helger's
you-
the contractor that actually went and finally did
I
the
don't know,
repair.
I felt like maybe I'm getting stories crossed, could be.
Maybe. No,
Yeah.
because I mean, I thought
I
it was
called
just the
several
one
times
time
for
that
help.
that I heard about that, but I
Yeah,
knew where it was.
yeah, maybe I didn't know.
Are
I
those
just
the
took a lot
pictures
of
that
phone
you
calls.
sent me of the inside damage that you had
Yes.
texted me?
Yeah, I didn't share
Okay,
them.
then
Yeah, I
it was that.
did send
shared
it,
that.
I
Did I
did
share
send,
that? You
I
guys saw
sent it
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
that,
I brought it
to
as the
Connie,
case, but
yeah.
I didn't want to be like, look what happened. Look what you made me do. I didn't mean that.
That was
But it would have been nice to get to this a lot quicker because
Yeah.
some expenses.
Unfortunately, so there's a process, and this is where we're trying to go. So one of the things on our agenda is to send out a letter, a reminder letter, basically, to
Yeah.
everybody in the district so that they're aware.
There's been turnover
they're-
in the district, so.
Yeah.
Sure.
But part of the problem is in the building inspector's office, not to complain about them, but they don't all know the addresses of, there's only 47 properties. So
Right.
they don't know themselves which properties. So if
Yeah.
a contractor comes in, if the contractor doesn't know that it's in the protected historic district, you
Yeah.
don't know to check the box off. And
Is
Well,
there?
I think he's getting.
It's a learning curve for
He's
all.
I'm not
all
placing
of
blame.
them.
more aware
No, I'm not placing
now,
blame.
but I think in the
There's
past it's
20,000
been.
There's 20,000
you know.
addresses in the city, no one's gonna
Right.
memorize
Right.
47
Yeah,
of them.
sure.
That's right.
Right,
Okay.
but it's a learning process for all of us, and plus
Sure.
we're working now with a small crew, and we're in the process of trying to converge to commissions, so we need to just get a reminder out to everybody to say, okay, this is the process and this is how it really needs to be done, just so that things like that don't happen, so
Yeah.
people are aware these are,
But I feel like it might be beneficial for everyone in that district if there's a provision for an emergency repair like that. I mean, it got destroyed while I was waiting for the next meeting to come along, and even if we did hit it on time, it was too late, it was wrecked.
right.
And there's some verbiage in there to emergency repairs, but it's not really that clear.
There is, and that's what we went with, and that's why you were able to
Yeah.
do it. It was just trying to find that whole thing, so, when we combine the two commissions, there's gonna be things that we, definitely make
Yeah.
more
And
clear,
I mean,
and,
I know
yeah.
there's people that would like to abuse that, I'm sure, so I don't know how aware you wanna make everyone. but
Well, yeah,
There's probably a nice fine line where
yeah,
everyone
and
can
it's, we have the process, and so people are gonna be more aware of the process, because I think it's been a few years that this whole thing happened, and people are probably forgetting how it works, so we're gonna, try and make that more clear. But yeah, in the case of an emergency, there's always
Yeah.
a
I was afraid to do too much. I didn't want to get in any more trouble
yeah.
than I was in.
So Adam, we ourselves, we had a pretty dramatic situation that occurred where our, what's that window called?
A skylight.
The skylight blew off during a storm. We weren't home. It was pouring rain, freezing rain, actually.
I remember the storm. I believe I lost one too.
Yeah. So there's stuff that happens, but we do need to be, this is created, and we do need to be sensitive to what the homes are. And as frustrating as it may be to have a process, I have to follow the same process too. But I get it, like, it took too long, stuff is going on, and, but, I'm sorry that you had further damage. Do you want us to come in and help you?
Yeah.
I'm
That would
pretty,
be
I'm
kinda cool.
pretty
You wanna have a
hesitate.
repair
I'm
party?
pretty handy.
Well, now they can do it for everyone. It's an
Yeah.
excuse to have a party.
I'm pretty handy, and I like sneaking into people's houses to help them out and
No, I
check
don't mean to
things
sound
out.
like woe's me, poor me.
Yeah.
Maybe just use it to put a positive
That was not
spin
our
on it and learn
intent,
from it.
yeah, that's definitely not our
And
intent.
that is definitely our intention, to,
Mhm.
And again, I got
It's
a
a
lot.
beau-
I got a lot of help when I figured out what to do. Well, I knew I was not doing the right thing. I got a lot of help guiding me to do the right thing
Well, that's awesome.
without wax on the knuckles and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of got like when you called me, that last time, I'm like, oh my God, what now?
Mhm.
And then I had to slap myself and say, he's helping you, stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
so I think we
yeah,
can-
move right along. I make a motion that you proceed as
Mhm.
you're suggesting, and,
Okay. Do I have to hand this in? This is the application.
Yeah,
that
just,
goes to-
yep,
I think I got
and
that
then,
all right.
yeah. And Kristen will get a letter off to you.
yeah.
Okay.
I just need this for the letter.
And that's what I can use to then go in front of the,
You don't
Building
have a
inspector.
copy
Yes.
machine?
Of
Yeah,
course you
once
do.
you
Can you
have
make a
that,
copy
then
of this, and
should
then that way
be
you can just give
fine.
him
cool.
a copy, and I'll keep that?
She's making a copy.
She's gonna make you a
Okay.
copy.
Mhm.
Has anyone else had trouble finding contractors that will actually stick to their word and show up and
Well,
return a phone call maybe would be cool?
we
It's
do
difficult.
have,
We have a couple good ones, but
Yeah.
it is difficult in general.
it is difficult, but
I've got one now out of, I think, 8.
offline, we can make
Okay.
recommendations, so it
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't
no, I
look
get
like we're promoting.
Off the record.
Like
They're
promoting.
very busy. There's
Yeah.
a lot of work
I know,
out
it's-
there, and it's.
But it's finding someone who's gonna do a good job and who's gonna show up when they say they're gonna show up,
Yeah.
complete, I get it.
And
It's tough.
understands historic sensitivity
Yeah.
to a property like you have as
Yeah.
well. You don't
Yeah.
want somebody that's just gonna be a hack contractor that's gonna make it
Yeah,
worse, so.
thanks.
But it is a
Thank you.
beautiful, beautiful
It
place.
is.
I mean,
It could
even when you walk in that entryway, like it's, come on.
Just compare
That's
it,
some pretty
compare it to an old car that you find in a junkyard. It
Yeah.
has to be restored.
Well, that's why I originally got
To
in there.
some people, that car is a piece of junk, and to some people see the beauty.
Yeah.
Just waiting to be restored.
And then just prioritize, and it can seem daunting. You're not alone in that. And remember that you're not alone in this type of,
Yeah, it feels
restoration
like it
and stuff. That way you
sometimes.
kind of feel better when you don't feel like, dear Lord, what did I get myself into?
But we're also here to answer any
Mhm.
questions at any time. I
Yeah,
mean, you
I
have,
get
some of you
that.
have my number, and, your neighbors.
Yeah.
And we have things from the state, like from Mass Historical Commission, with guidelines on how you should proceed with renovating renovating historical properties. And then if you decide you wanna go for tax credits and things like that, we can also give you that information. So,
Okay.
you're really not alone. I mean, finding a contractor
I get
and
it.
getting them
There's
to
a lot of
stick,
work
they
going on
are,
on the
but
street
yeah.
on some of the houses that were really run down, and they look pretty darn nice.
Mhm.
It's coming. I
Oh,
think Fall
further
River
down,
is-
outside of the district, I
Yes.
know, Larry's house. He's
Yeah.
doing an
Up the
Up the
amazing
hill on
job.
the right, there
On
was
the
a
right,
really
yes.
nice house
White one,
there,
right?
white one, it's now like
Yes.
gray and white maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's taken on, and that's a single guy
Yep.
taking that on. Mm-hmm.
And it's,
That's kind
it's
of exciting,
looking,
too.
it looks so nice
Yeah.
when you go by there now to see what it used to be, and even just in the process of what it looks like now. It's,
That was the only house that made
Incredible.
mine look good.
Ah,
Now he's doing
no.
this.
see?
The pressure's
a-
Now
on.
he's
To make a
making you
long
step it
story
up.
short, Adam, I really believe that the city of Fall River is starting to wake up to the concept of retaining some originality and, and some culture with property.
Yeah.
The culture of Fall River is a little difficult because a lot of it is new settlements here,
Yeah.
from out of country. But I think it's now starting to breathe in that direction, which is a good thing. Now we'll start to
I
make
noticed the
changes.
difference. It goes along the waterfront's done the same thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Finally got a clue, and other people are jumping on the bandwagon.
Exactly, and I think it's gonna just start to increase in speed, and
I
if the
think so,
rail train gets in here.
I was just
that's-
gonna say, if this train,
Yeah.
15 years ago when I was on the Conservation Commission,
Yeah.
it was a couple years away.
Sure.
And now it's a couple years away.
But it does, I mean, it looks like they're making more progress. One of the people that's in the district, one of the property owners, bought a property specifically because it was in a historic district.
I can see that
So there
happening.
are people that, and he was from out of the area, so there really are people that are interested.
This
in
whole thing
properties like
benefits
that,
that,
so-
the whole neighborhood.
It
Mhm.
does, it
Well,
benefits
it
the
protects
city.
you too, that you're not gonna
Right.
have something
Yeah.
crazy right on the side of your
Right.
Yeah,
home. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. It'll keep your value
That's how I
in
saw
your
it.
property and,
And it's not inconvenient once you understand how it works.
right.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
I was wondering, you said that you'd field some questions, but my name's Kathleen Hilton, I'm a tenant of Adams at his other property, and I've been.
Other property is
I own
362.
362 Rock Street,
362.
which is just outside the.
Yep,
Mhm.
And, it's a beautiful, beautiful, home, but it pains me to see how much needs to be done to bring it back to life, and especially, I have this massive, fireplace with so much, like, detail and the carving, and I have, some shipwright friends who come in and just marvel at the woodwork, and, it's tough to drive around and to see those places in town that are absolute gems and, look like they haven't been painted for the last 20 years. I last lived in the historic district in New Bedford, on Center Street, above, my partner owned, where Bejeweled is, that building there. It's an old warehouse, it has so I'm familiar with the process, but I remember when I first moved into 362 Rock, I turned to Adam, talking about, what his plans were and how he saw, dealing with the properties that he had in this neighborhood where, there's intermittent absolute gems and then other homes, and what kind of ambitions he had, because I likened it to the Painted Ladies in San Francisco. And he wasn't necessarily familiar with it, so I remember after we spoke, I went and I looked online, and I was fascinated to see that it's not only in San Francisco, but there's a number of other cities that have embraced the same thing, and it is as if you have these gems on this necklace that you just string, and next thing you know, you have this district that's people are actually, taking pictures of as a backdrop. I think it's hard for this area to realize when you're from this area and grew up in this area to understand the value of these homes, old growth trees that are built to last, and just the craftsmanship that went into them and how they were built to stand. Just the value of these homes is incredible, and it pains me to watch. So I think I was curious about the process and where Fall River was coming from, because I'm wise enough to where New Bedford's coming from. But I'm also curious to see what these other cities did. I'm curious to find out what their story is and what the process was. Like, where along the line, was it in the 70s that they stopped and looked at each other going, oh man, we gotta save these homes? And how they went along and did it, whether or not they got federal, incentives to go through and provide for the landlords. I mean, so not unlike Adam, who, would love to bring the place back to life, but, is limited by means for one reason or another. Yeah, I don't know whether or not you guys have ever explored those other cities that have similar districts with the, I'm sure you have.
Oh.
Yeah,
But
his-
it's
You're
just-
speaking
yes, yes.
talk here, yeah, like you're really, you're touching upon something that we're very passionate about. So we're pretty young as far as the Historic Commission goes. The local historic commissions, we're pretty young, and how long have we been established now?
Well, the
Well,
historical
77
commission
was
was
the original.
77.
No,
then
no,
it's
it
sort
got
of waned.
defunct, it was defunct,
Yeah.
it wasn't
Exactly, and then
happening,
it-
yeah.
And then it
was-
came back, I mean, not
Like, I wanna say Mayor
Eight-
Flanagan was
8 years
right.
the
ago,
mayor.
maybe?
Yeah, but
Right.
what she really is comparing is, so for
When the
example-
city
for example,
kinda
New
got
Bedford
on board.
started their preservation movement in 1959 or 60 with Whale, nonprofit organization. And so they're a full.
Do you want to just, for
I am
the
doing it.
record, no, just say who you are.
I'm Jim
and-
Soul, I
okay.
live on Rock Street, and I'm the president of the Preservation Society. So Whale, so they've got about 50, 60 year jump start on us.
Mhm.
The Preservation Society started in Fall River in 77-ish, but they went defunct after a few years. They tackled the Abbey Grill, saved the Abbey Grill, but it wound up being their undoing. It was such a monster, it took all their efforts and energy, and they went defunct after that. So the Preservation Society was defunct for about 6 or 8 years, and we reincorporated the Preservation Society. We specifically tried to have a smaller scale run of things, in other words, neighborhoods and smaller homes. We tackle big properties once in a while as far awareness-wise, but we're not trying to buy big properties that'll just consume us. Savannah, Georgia started in 1950. They became the heritage tourism capital of the country, all because of their historic preservation efforts. Nantucket, the entire island is a historic district. You go to Nantucket and, right, you draw drops. It's just incredible. So that's probably the most stunning one in this state of Massachusetts.
Cape May.
Cape May. So
Yeah,
then
New
you've got federal incentives, twofold. One is the federal historic tax credits, which gives you a 25% tax credit for exterior preservation efforts, but it has to be for commercial or multifamily. You can't do it for resident, I can't do it for my private home. You can do it for a 3-family though. And then the state tax credit also is another 10% you can add on top of that. Tends to not be quite as lucrative, but it's helpful. And then there's another federal one that's a housing one, and you can do historic preservation if you're doing housing, but it has to be affordable housing, and you have to accept a 40-year preservation a 40-year housing deed. So for 40 years, all of your units in your property have to stay low-income affordable housing. So that's a double-edged sword, because you like to do this preservation effort, you might think your property value is going to go up, but if you're stuck with it always being low income, you're going to be limited at how much value you're really going to get. It's good in a big city like Boston or Providence where they need a balance of low-income housing, but in Fall River, where we already are at 22% low-income housing, it's not a good sell. And then individual communities develop revolving funds, preservation funds. Providence does it, Savannah does it. Works really well. So there's a bank of money, and property owners can borrow from that revolving fund, and then as it gets paid back, they can turn it over to different properties and different projects. We would love to get that. The Preservation Society is a nonprofit organization. We're on the verge of starting a revolving fund, kind of for ourselves.
They
But-
just bought a house, didn't they?
We did, on Pine Street, bought our first historic house to restore. And, but the revolving fund is probably the best way to get a funding mechanism in place to do it. We did get the CPA adopted in Fall River 5 years ago, and the CPA is outstanding. It can cover private developers.
I'm sorry, what's the CPA?
Community Preservation Act. So it's available to all communities in the state of Massachusetts, but it's only adopted if the city or town votes and approves it. And then when that happens, though, the property owners in that community, they're subject to a tax
3%.
surcharge on their real estate. In Fall River, it's 1.5%, which is one of the lower amounts. It goes up to 3.5% in some communities, which you could imagine is a heavier hit.
Yeah.
So the Community Preservation Act, and then, so in Fall River, we have the CPA, the budget is about $1.5 million a year that we can, they can grant out to applicants. It prefers municipal projects and nonprofits, but private developers can apply. And they
Well,
just have to meet a
especially
certain
for
criteria.
housing, because there is a category for housing and historic preservation, and
That's right.
so it would fall under.
And in fact, if you have a project that's affordable, housing and preservation, it increases your points essentially.
Yeah.
So in fact, in the housing, the good thing about CPA and housing is unlike the federal housing project, CPA allows housing up to 100% median income. So it's really geared toward market rate housing, not necessarily low-income housing. In fact, Fall River, the housing plan does not recommend more low-income housing. So a low-income housing applicant would not be a good project, but a median income housing project scores high points, because we need more market rate housing in Fall River.
Right. That sounds less scary to a landlord too.
Mhm.
Yep.
But there are, I mean, there's all these different ways, but part of what we found is one of the obstacles is having the administration on board and willing to, promote preservation and even, like create funds like that for people in the community to use. And so some of the communities that you're talking about, like New Bedford, it has a little bit different view of preservation.
Yeah, New Bedford's had a lot more support.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of the wealth in New Bedford, they were lucky to hold on to it, because even the wealthy, when they moved out to Dartmouth, and Dartmouth has a funny affinity where people in Dartmouth own New Bedford. When the Fall River people moved out to Westport and Little Compton, they didn't own Fall River so much anymore, they ran. So there are some, but not like it has in New Bedford. New Bedford just had a good way of holding on to that support.
Yeah.
Our rival, sister
You
city
can-
rival.
You can hear that culture. The culture in a lot of these other cities is geared, and I was saying that earlier, geared to preservation and maintaining it and building it. Where Fall River's been very reluctant until just of late to start taking on that
Yeah.
culture.
I think we're starting to. I think
Yeah, I
it's
do. I believe
making a
so, but
difference,
it's-
and it's slow.
I think it's
It's a very
exciting though
slow
for an outsider
process.
coming in to see what potential's there. I mean, some beautiful homes, your home, for example, is just such a jewel, and yet, I think it just takes time, but to give guys like Adam an opportunity, to realize his vision without breaking his back,
Yeah.
so.
I think there might be some opportunities, but it would still cost more than keeping it as is.
Yeah.
But you could, if the planets, lined up,
Yeah. It's.
there could be maybe more opportunities than,
I've had years where I poked around and tried, and then everything else, yacht sales is what puts food on the table for my
Yeah.
family, and a little bit of the apartment houses, but
yeah,
and my attention gets drawn away pretty quickly.
yeah.
But so it sounds like the administration needs to be sold on the whole thing more than anything.
Yeah, well, we need it to
What do
be
we
for
get out
a
of
lot
it
of
kind of
reasons, but
thing?
they're not gonna pay for your project. But we need it because there are other things we need them for. We need them to be part of the solution. We need
Yeah.
them to be encouraging smarter development.
But even in the neighborhoods, just in general, people in the city and their view of historic preservation, I think, tends to be, they look at it as this very elitist thing. So what we've done is we're trying to change the perception as well. So the Historical Commission put together a presentation, and we're going around to the neighborhoods and just meeting with people and explaining why preservation is important, how it helps the neighborhoods, how it helps the city overall, where it's not just like, oh, look at the fancy houses. It's not just about that. So, we're trying to, and the Preservation Society too, I mean, I gotta give you guys credit for bringing awareness to that as well. It's just, but it takes a lot of people working together to change. You know, even Savannah, Georgia,
Even
started
Savannah-
small,
even
but had
Savannah
to
took-
get everybody on board,
took a
and I'm
long
sure
time,
New
yeah.
Bedford and all the other places.
Savannah and Fall
It
River
takes-
really had a lot in, have a lot in common, because Savannah was really dilapidated, and now it's a destination.
And we have
Mhm.
the waterfront. There's so many reasons why Fall River could be a destination city. And we have a core group of people that really believe in that, and so just gotta keep fighting.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, in so many ways, I feel
You
encouraged.
brought up a good point.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, again,
Good.
anything we can do to
We
help, any,
Take her information,
Information.
and maybe you could come
Yeah.
to our next preservation meeting.
Check us out on Facebook,
Yeah.
Preservation Society.
I will, I'll check it out,
Mhm.
thanks.
The Historical Society, there's two different organizations.
Mhm.
Historical Society runs a fantastic museum, and they've restored that gorgeous Victorian mansion on the corner of Rock and Maple. And then the Preservation Society runs this community activist group.
Well, I appreciate you explaining the difference, I didn't realize that.
and the Historical Commission is the group that is the city group
Entity.
for, city entity for preservation. So and the Historic District Commission, which we're actually in the process of combining the two.
That's where you
But,
are tonight.
Yeah, you're in the District Commission meeting.
Oh, so you're combining the two?
That
We're
combine it with the
attempting to.
Historical
Trying.
So
Commission.
then there'll be two, there'll be the Preservation Society and then the Historic Commission, or Historic District Commission, right?
Yeah.
It'll be-
Well, no,
But
preservation is
they're not for the
preservation.
city, that's
That's a
Yeah,
non-profit,
nonprofit.
That's one entity.
private organization.
But then the Historic
This is the
District
city
in the Historic Commission.
entity.
Those are city entities.
Yes.
And there's two separate committees right now. Historic
Yeah, it's
Commission,
two separate.
Historic District Commission.
That's what I'm trying to say.
This is the
Those are the
district.
districts.
The
Those are the two they're trying
district
to
deals
combine.
You're right, that's
just
what I
with
was
the
trying to say.
47 properties.
It
in the
was
40C
formed,
district.
it was formed to help everyone pull this district commission section together. And now that the district is completed, we're just going to try and get that to merge with the historic commission, and then anything that grows from there will continue with the one commission.
Right.
It'll work more smoothly.
And the Historical Commission also has a page on Facebook with a lot of amazing photos from, you know, throughout the history of the city. So if you're interested in
Yeah,
that too,
I'll
there's
check it out.
lots of great,
It's like a little
photos and-
education seminar
It
just
is.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot I had forgotten actually that you all have talked about.
And then one last point I'll make is that the big comparison of Fall River's local historic district, which is the 604 Rock Street area, and New Bedford, is New Bedford's downtown national park.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference.
That is essentially a local historic district. Though that's a protected historic district, as ours is
Oh,
a
I
protected
see.
historic district. They just have a national park designation, mostly because it's largely a commercial neighborhood. So it's a
And it's
different.
certified, isn't it? Like a certified local?
I don't know if they have certified local government
I
status.
thought they did.
But essentially, they're both protected historic districts. Theirs just happens to be a national park, ours is called a local historic district.
Oh, okay, I see.
And we can create other ones in the city as well, hopefully someday, in,
Right.
you know, other areas.
And expand to the existing.
Mm-hmm. You want your house in there.
Yeah, it's right next door. Right there.
That's great, good stuff.
Did
Okay.
anyone else have any?
So you can stay for the duration of the
Yeah, I'm
meeting,
kinda
or
curious
you
how-
can,
Okay.
okay.
But I'll get that letter ready for you so you can start
Okay,
doing what
great.
you need to do. Okay, so next up on the agenda is 577 Rock Street, also who has some work that they wanna do, so I'm gonna let Mr. Soul explain
Yeah.
what you'd like to do.
So I specifically told my contractor, it was a good contractor, but I had to tell him, don't get me in the same trouble as my neighbor. Make sure you check off the box that says I'm in an historic district. Because the last time I had done work, it wasn't an historic district. So I think he sent a brief description. It's our widow's walk. The membrane roof is failing. So he's going to replace, going to remove the membrane roof and put down new planking and membrane. And then he's going to add spindles, rails, and newel posts. I apologize, the picture is so dark.
Oh, no, this
Just
was,
squint.
this was how mine printed, that's why it's dark. Yours actually, you could see it
Oh,
on the,
okay.
yeah, it's just my printer is horrible.
And I think the biggest point is that the rails, spindles, and newel posts are built to specification to match
The existing.
the front porch, except that they're actually a little bit short. They're not supposed to be full
You mean
height.
these here?
Yes,
Yeah, and that's what's gonna be on the widow's wall.
and that's running as well.
Mm.
In a full disclosure, I think the code says it's supposed to be 36 inches high. That's the new building code. This is an historical house in the historic district, and it would make the house look like a clown if I put 36-inch rails on the roof.
Yeah.
Big top hat.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be in wood. They're not using cedar now. They're using a type of eucalyptus. Got all the details from the guy, the mill worker. I don't remember all the details, but it was interesting.
No kidding. that's
Form of
what-
eucalyptus, yes.
Well, that's a better wood, that's gonna last a lot longer too.
That's the idea. They've been playing with different woods to see
Right.
what lasts the longest, because
Exactly.
they have different natural resins in them.
Mhm,
And they think or they hope that this is the next best
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and that tree likes water, so it's a good thing when it rains.
Unless we have an influx of koalas that attack your house. Then you're
could see
in
that
trouble,
That was a
but,
good one.
Okay.
yeah.
It looks like you're leaving it all original, Jim. That's
Mhm.
what you're doing. You're just
Um,
refurbishing, maintenance,
Right.
doing the maintenance, but to the
Right.
originality of
Yeah.
what's
The original
existing now.
Right, the original rails were lost before we had bought the house.
Sure.
In fact, there was a pressure-treated lumber up there when we bought the house. We had to take it off because it had failed quickly,
Mhm.
like I think within like 18 months. And so it's been without rails at all for about 20 years.
Mhm.
I think that's gonna look so nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to
yeah.
have that back up
And then
there.
eventually I want these rails. See these rails all along here, the round rails, see those?
Is that-
They're all
yeah.
That's
missing,
1930.
they're all
Yeah.
missing.
Can I borrow your picture?
Yeah, yeah,
See
yeah.
those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is a real
See, they actually
picture,
have it on
an
top
original
of
picture
all
from
the
the
wedges.
1920s.
And
You
it's
see
just
it?
two clear
That's
on the top.
beautiful.
Is this metal?
So
What's up
so
here?
those aren't on there, right?
I
now.
had all.
They're not
the
steel, they're wood,
those
right?
too.
Yeah, I bet you
all-
do.
Are they
The
in the
rails?
front?
Yeah, they're all.
And the rail up here?
They're wood.
No,
So
I don't
none
have
of that
them.
is
No,
on.
they're all gone.
I could look, I have a
At
picture of your house on my
362,
phone.
there's a
but-
bunch of wrought iron railings just sitting in
Oh,
that attic.
yeah.
And I thought that it was a
Right
rails
onto
for a
yours.
Might have
round
been.
roof.
Might have been, because this is a colonial revival and yours is, what was his
Yours is
name?
earlier.
Yeah.
Yours is-
This is
So it might be.
362, the
Right.
one down the street,
Right.
but I figured,
Your
I didn't know
house
they
is a
looked like they could be
colonial
original.
revival?
Yeah, they might be original. Because the historical
I
society,
always
there's
thought it
a
was
metal.
Queen Anne.
No,
No,
I
There's
thought I'd
With
seen
the
that
roundness?
in the neighborhood
Oh, wow.
somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, it goes all the way on the top, I think
Queen
it
Anne's
goes on
gonna
top of
have
the
the
roof
round.
and just
but I said
surrounds it.
before
Well,
I
it-
die, I want these rails
Because of
up.
stairs that go up there. For the widows to walk.
yeah, Anne would have that much gingerbread.
Yeah.
Because that's where every widow wants to walk.
So you
Sure.
have
This
iron
would
rails?
be-
They're stored in the attic. I just noticed them there when we did the original inspection.
His picture,
I never dug into it too deeply,
this one.
See, now you're gonna want to, because now you're gonna be
but I know
curious.
there's iron rails up there and they're probably about 2 feet tall.
Yeah, sure.
And they just look like they mounted on
It's hard to identify.
the roof. That's-
And they probably did.
So, I'm curious to see if they're all there. I don't know how you duplicate them. You'd have to have castings made.
Get that iron worker right
I
down the
don't know
street,
how we're
on
gonna
Ferry Street.
vote on this.
Yeah, we have ornamental ironworks there on Ferry Street. I
Oh,
don't
we
think you
do.
cast though.
It's, we need
You could probably
three
duplicate it pretty
of
close
the
with,
four of us.
Yeah.
with,
No,
'Cause I
the four of
abstained.
the seven.
You need the three of the four. As is written in the thing, you need three of the four.
So if I abstain, it's still
If you abstain,
considered-
it's the three of us,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's your property, so you need to abstain, so it would be the three of us.
Well, I'll make a motion, Jim, to go along with your plans and your recommendations and your builder's description. That's
Thank you.
right in line with, actually, you're going above and beyond I make a motion that we send out a letter to Mr. and Mrs. Solom.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And we have one abstain. Okay.
Are you opposing?
I'm not opposed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
So
Better not
motion
be.
passes, so I'll get a letter for you as well.
Wanna see a picture of the It's hard to see, but you can see the rails and stuff. Above the porch.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't,
Leather
but the
rails.
Preservation Society may. I had a tenant looking for them for 604, and there really isn't much for 604, but we didn't look for 362, so.
Okay, so next on our agenda is a letter to property owners within the 40C district, a draft that I did. So I gave you all a copy of the draft, and behind it is also, so these are the procedures for filing applications, which I think probably would be a good idea to include in the letter, just so people have it. But this is what's right on the website. It's on the city website, so anybody can find that.
So Adam
I can send
prompted
them out
this.
for you
Is that
guys.
what happened?
I can send these out.
Yo, sorry, I didn't mean that
Yeah,
to
we
work.
just
Probably
need
good
to,
thing.
we
Get
need
a final
to,
approval of the draft, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And then I can do the final letter, but, I don't know if this is something that, things that you think need to be changed in that, or, you know, I didn't wanna make it too wordy. I know Mr. Dice had written a letter, but it was more to, future districts, and it was like 3 pages long, so I wanted something that people are gonna
I
wanna
think
read.
he had included, proposed districts,
Yeah, he
right?
did, yeah. So this, there wasn't actually one for our district. So
Yeah.
this is what I kind of pulled together. So it gives basic, you know, ideas of, this is what kind of we expect and where you can find the information and what we do and don't want. But just a brief,
Can I read it?
yeah. As a property owner, sure, you can.
It's only a draft,
You'll be
Adam.
receiving
I
one
know, I
in the
just
mail.
Don't
curious.
get too hooked on every
Yeah.
word.
I spell checked it.
I don't
Well, anyway, it wouldn't
I don't
matter.
doubt it. Just to know.
You know I am not gonna put something down that's not spelling and grammar checked.
Are you looking for an acceptance of this evening?
If you'd like, if there's nothing that needs to be changed, then I can, send it to Kerry and we can send it out. It's just, it's my draft, so whether or not you wanna change anything, I can make changes to it and then we can send it. It's, that's what I came up with, so I'm just looking for some input before we send it. I don't think I have another copy because I would have given you one to read. Oh.
So this is your initial draft.
Mm-hmm.
So are you gonna make some changes? I see you with your pen.
Well, yeah, I just, I see a couple of things here that if it goes out to a homeowner and there's questions to
Yeah.
us, I see something that probably legally would really hurt us. So,
Yeah.
are you too?
Yeah,
So
I
think
can't get
wanna-
past one paragraph, so
Well,
I
maybe
think we
we're on
need
the
to
same
like, yeah, I
page,
think
yeah.
we're on the same paragraph.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe we should just maybe review this and get back to you with what
No,
we think.
that's fine, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I
Awesome.
just see something here that,
So if we could,
yeah, just,
send ideas to you, and then,
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
fine. This was, basically, this was Tony's letter, parts
Is it
of
the
Tony's
paragraph
letter.
about the illegal
Mhm.
aliens working on the homes? No? Okay.
There's the sole,
I'll have to be the one
Um,
to hit on.
I'm not a
You
public
should-
employee.
No, I'm just reading this.
Mhm.
Don't look at my.
Yeah, this was,
It's things that
so
was,
this
yeah.
was, well, this was called from his letter.
I know,
plus,
but there's just some, like.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no, no,
let's-
and that's
let's-
fine.
Let's all put some input
Right.
into it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's what I
I have a
want.
good feeling I know what they're looking at.
I can, this, like I said, this was the draft. I can send this to you as a Word document
That'd be nice, so we
if
can.
you wanna
Yeah,
play with it and then send that back.
be
And then
awesome.
I can do what I need to
Then
do,
then
send
we'll
that
put
back
the
around.
changes maybe in
She's
red or
doing
something, so.
Yeah,
you
that
know
would be
what-
good.
yeah, no, that's awesome.
yeah,
That way
that'd
it'll be a
great.
collaborative.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sorry, you can't keep the draft.
No, cause that's not what's,
It's a draft.
it is. But some of this is from the
Yeah.
page, our city page, and then some of it was taken from his,
Okay,
so,
all right. So
Yeah.
we can move on then.
yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll send,
Might wanna
And-
reiterate, you're here to help and advise. I mean, it says it kind of at the bottom, but I just know from my initial reaction, it's like, they're here to make me spend more money and wait.
Yeah.
And that's not what it's all about. I know it, and I'm afraid other people
no,
Mm.
well,
Right.
that's
that
the
haven't been in
reason,
business for themselves or something,
Right.
may have that knee-jerk reaction.
but that's also the reason why I wanna send the letter, is because I think people just forget that there is a process, and like, if you had known in the beginning, okay, this is the process, you could have planned for it, and then you'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, well, this
And
is,
to Adam's point, knowing that some of us who worked to establish the historic district, we did ourselves,
Mhm.
we were part of that volunteer process. And one of the things we were extremely sensitive about was that we wanted it to pass.
Mhm.
And we didn't want to alienate people.
No.
And we want people to be,
That's a good word.
yeah,
yeah, we want people
Your
on
average person
board.
gets a little scared and kinda wants to
Yeah.
That's
back
right.
away.
That's right. And when we got this through, we narrowed it down from, this was supposed to be a 200 property district. And we narrowed it down to 47 properties because as people felt alienated or disagreed or anxious, we just excluded them from the district because we didn't want to force it on anybody or down anyone's throat. So I would just beg that it's
Liberal.
as nice as possible.
yeah.
Yeah,
Gentle,
very,
Gentle.
no legalese, no politics.
Yeah.
gentle, gentle.
Well, we're not
I'm just
really-
saying.
No, I know, and I think people also think that
It's
we
just
really
the
are
aura of a
super
commission.
strict and it's just,
You're right.
you
That's
know,
all it is, because the
Yeah.
Conservation Commission was the same way, and it was
We're
like everyone
very-
was scared,
yeah.
and,
Yeah.
I mean, that one probably was a little more scary, but
No, we really do wanna work with people, we don't wanna make this harder for people. We really wanna make it easier so that we encourage people to get on board with
Yeah,
preservation.
it's a
And
good
we
thing.
don't wanna make
you
people
might hit a
jump
point where people
through
want
a
to
million
include their
hoops.
house.
That's
Yeah.
what we're trying to,
Exactly
that's that
right.
Now, how do I get
culture.
in on this?
That's
Right.
that culture we
is.
keep mentioning
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to enhance that and move that forward is by having people have that warm and comfy
Mhm.
feeling
Yeah.
that this is a good thing
It is.
and we're all working together as a group and that's what's important. And yes, you're absolutely correct. This literature should reflect that. The attitude of this commission should reflect that.
Right.
Working with people, souls and yourselves, our leaders, you should leave here and say, boy, you know, they worked with us. This is a good, and have a good feeling. If you do that, then that word spreads, and then there's gonna be more
Oh, yeah.
acceptance, and
Word of
we're
mouth.
gonna become these New Bedford areas, and, you know, these other areas. We're gonna grow that way. It'll get there.
You're setting a good example.
Good try. Okay, so,
So
I
we'll
will
get
get
back
that,
to you
yep,
on
I'll
this.
get the Word doc to you guys, can you call that back to me?
Thank you.
And then, last, open discussion, is there anything, that we need to talk about before? So I think, we probably will not, I mean, this is our May meeting, I'm not sure that we're gonna be meeting in June. Only because of things with, different people and different obligations, so I'm not sure that we're gonna have a June meeting unless we need to, as if it were to come up, we will,
I'll be back enough for meetings in June,
Yeah.
definitely.
okay,
Okay.
okay, then that's fine.
I have another question. How long is a certificate good for?
1 year.
Okay. I was waiting for 30 days or something. There goes my
And then
contractor.
it's
72 hours.
It's a
Hurry up,
simple-
Adam.
It's a
No.
simple matter. If you run beyond that,
Yeah.
You just,
you just.
I mean,
come in,
realistically,
extension,
really,
yeah.
I don't think I'll get to all my things in a year.
Okay, just come in, reapply, and the same thing with the building permits, because the building permit expires.
Yep.
But once you get the recertification, you'll get the
Yeah.
building permit extended, so.
Cool.
It's not a
Pretty easy. Yeah.
bad thing, it's a good thing, it works well.
yeah. So, I guess that's it, if I,
Yeah?
Motion to adjourn?
okay, motion, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Okay.